does a newborn baby, for instance, get a new soul or a new spirit or a recycled spirit?
Yeah, a newborn baby is up until very recently, a newborn baby is just a newborn soul in a new body. So when a mother becomes pregnant, the half of the soul incarnates and attaches itself to the developing child, right? And the developing child has two bodies that it attaches to. So there's the soul that's now attached to these two developing bodies. So in this case, I've drawn a woman's body with the feminine part of the soul being attracted. So that then becomes the baby. The baby is actually a physical body and a spirit body developing in the womb of mum, connected to the soul. Now, while that's happening, so that's sometimes happening inside mum's tummy, right? If I can draw it like that. Right? Do you want to add more detail? No, I think it's not good. So that's happening inside of mum's tum, right? The developing child. Now, unfortunately, part of the influences now upon this child are very much reflected upon mum, because inside of this body here, which is mum's big body, so I'll draw mum's big body. So this is mum's big body, there's her tummy, right? So that's mum, right? She has a spirit body of her own, and she is connected to her half of the soul. You follow? So she is actually now having a developing fetus inside of her own soul container, which is outside of or enveloping the two bodies that she has. Now, because of that, any influences she is open to automatically predisposes the child to be open to those same influences. So if the mother is frightened, like she has fear in her, it doesn't matter what it's about. Let's say she's afraid of men. If mum's afraid of men, and this child here is a man developing inside of mum's body, then he will feel like mum's afraid of me. Does that make sense? If mum is afraid of men and this is a girl child developing inside of mum's body, then her soul will automatically start absorbing that emotion. I should be afraid of men. Will automatically be absorbed. So this is why it's very important as a parent to work your way through things emotionally, because when you release things emotionally, you'll find your children don't have the same predisposition towards the same emotions and therefore the same experiences. Now, unfortunately, also what happens is if the mother is afraid of spirits, for example, or has a deep underlying fear of spirits, or even just a deep underlying fear, period, what happens is spirits around her could then attach themselves to that developing fetus. Right? And this often does happen where by the time the child is born, it already is experiencing sickness and hurt from the attachment of a spirit who now is attempting to use the body. And in fact, the teaching of reincarnation, as it's taught on Earth today, encourages spirits to do this. So what the spirit is trying to do is attach to this body, thinking that the spirit itself is going through a process of reincarnation, when in reality what's happening is the spirit is just attaching itself to another person's body. And sometimes you'll see, and I've heard very frequently and seen very frequently where a child is born and they say, boy, he just reminds me of his uncle who passed away 5 years earlier, you know. He just reminds me so much. He's just exactly the same. He's just exactly the same. And most of the time it's because there is actually the spirit of the uncle connecting to the child. And unfortunately, it's also a cause of many childhood diseases. So, for example, your leukemia in a child is frequently caused by a parent, a grandparent or a great-grandparent who died of cancer connecting to the child while it's either within the womb or shortly after birth, and that is creating the cancer in the child. Does that make sense?
Yeah, how would a parent stop that?
The parent needs to firstly understand that this is a potential of happening, and secondly needs to deal with the emotion that allows the spirit to connect. So usually emotions like fear, is one of those emotions. If I have fear in me, then fear is definitely going to leave or expose myself and my own children. If I'm carrying a child, it will expose those things to those influences of these spirits who want to reattach. Because there are many spirits in the spirit world, in these lower dimensions, who believe they have to reattach to progress. The truth is, you can progress in the spirit world as much as you want without returning to Earth. But many spirits don't believe that. Many spirits believe that you must reincarnate on Earth to progress to the next level in the spirit world. And as a result of that, they try to connect to people on Earth through this process, and a lot of times try to connect to the child while it's even in the womb of the mum. And it's only the mum and dad's emotional condition that determines whether that can occur or not. So if mum and dad are both afraid of spirits, there's a high likelihood it will occur. If mum and dad both have a lot of fear in them, there's a high likelihood it will occur, for example. So mum and dad, before they have children, hopefully deal with some of that fear, and you'll have far less occurrence of any damage to the child through spirit influence. Yeah. Does that help? That's just giving you some examples of it, yeah.